Well, welcome everyone. I'm Lieutenant Commander Stephen Rogers, retired United States Navy, now the operations manager of the Association of the United States Navy. And welcome to our broadcast. I have a real special guest with me, a fellow that I worked with during my good part of my Navy career, and who went on to be a very, very accomplished, and I know, Dennis, you don't want to hear this, but I'm going to say it, kind of a famous a photographer. I mean, the guy's got a lot of on the ball, but we're going to talk a little bit about his Navy career and then talk about transitioning from the Navy to a career. He's an entrepreneur. And I've gotten a lot of calls from people, sailors, if you will, both officers and enlisted who are retiring or leaving the Navy, concerned about their future. So, hey, Dennis, really great seeing you. Thank you for joining me tonight.
You got it, Steve. It's an absolute pleasure to speak with you, to be a part of this organization. And when I got your call and I hadn't spoken to you in a while, I jumped at the chance whenever you call, because I know you're always up to good things.
Well, I appreciate it. So you're kind of a real American story. My goodness, could you give us a little bit of background on yourself? And then when you went into the Navy, what were your expectations? What did you do in the Navy? And then we'll talk about transitioning out.
Sure. So stop me if I get too long-winded, because I do have the gift of gab. So
we all do, believe me.
Wow. So I spent 31 years in the Navy between active duty and reserves. I originally was going to join right out of high school, and I balked at that. And I tried my hand at college a little bit, and I needed to right my rudder, put myself on a different course. So I decided to join the Navy Reserve in 1990, and I wanted to be a Master at Arms, an MA, but at that time they did not allow it straight into the Navy. You had to be an E5. So I got the next best thing and became an intelligence specialist. An intelligence specialist, which, aside from being a pilot or probably a Navy SEAL, is the best job in the Navy. Why? Because you have the opportunity to work with any community. You can work on ships. You can work on land. You can work for government agencies. So I did that in the reserves, and my first unit was a Naval Special Warfare Unit, Navy Special Warfare Unit 2. We supported SEAL Team 2 at the time, and maybe they're still there, out of Stuttgart, originally out of Macro-Henderson and Stuttgart. From there, after I left there, I went to ONI, Office of Naval Intelligence, and to the Joint Forces Intelligence Command. I made it up to E6, a first-class petty officer. I was then commissioned in 2003 as an intelligence officer through the direct commission program after finishing up my, I had finished up my degree in political science prior to that. But quickly upon, I think I was a JG when I went on active duty. I was a reservist on active duty supporting DIA's, Defense Intelligence Agency's, watch listing mission. And that at the time was fairly new and quite chaotic after 9/11 and the need to put a number of bad guys on the watch list, so the no-fly list. So I spent some time there, and I was there about a year, and then I got shipped off to Iraq for a year, where I worked with the Joint Personnel Recovery Center as one of the senior intel analysts, looking for missing uniformed personnel, U.S. uniformed personnel, while I was there. Came back, remained on active duty for a couple of more years, working with DIA and with AFRICOM. And I got off active duty and went to work as a contractor. Didn't like it, so I went back on active duty and stayed there until I went back into the reserves in about 2012. And then 2019, I had a short stint actually as a Navy guy with the Air Force, Secretary of the Air Force. And then COVID hit, they cut the order short, and I retired shortly thereafter, after 31 years.
31 years. Wow. God bless you. I didn't know you're in that. I remember when you're young lieutenant. I would always,
Yeah,
that's
I
where I
might
met
have, I might have even been a second class when we first met,
Yeah.
but none of the officers paid attention to me then. So,
Wow. Well, what a great career. Well, thank you for your service. You did quite well in the Navy. I miss the Navy. I had a career, as you know, in law enforcement, but they asked me, "Do you miss law enforcement?" I said, "No, I miss the Navy."
Mr.
So
Navy,
I'm
yes.
sure you do. So now you had a great distinguished naval career.
Mhm.
And everyone in the Navy, whether they're there for 4 years, 8 years, no matter how much time, they're all distinguished careers because they're serving their country. But I
Agreed.
find, Dennis, that some of the young men and women reaching out to me are finding it difficult to transition from the
Mhm.
military to civilian life. A lot of them can't find jobs. A lot of them are lost. A lot of them are talented in music or art or in photography. Your photography is
Mhm.
an art. I'm sure that's a different kind of art. I tell you, I was amazed over what I saw. That's why I reached out to you. I said, look at this guy. But can you share a little bit about the difficulties sometimes in transitioning and then how you got into this entrepreneurial journey that's been successful? Because I get the impression that a lot of people transitioning get depressed.
Yep.
When they get depressed, boy, it's a tough road to go. So if you could share a little bit about your journey regarding that end of it.
Sure. Mine is an interesting one. So I talk about depression, talk about issues. So shortly after coming back from Iraq, I had, this is even before I retired or coming off active duty, I had a lot of issues with coming back into society. And I definitely was different when I came back than when I left. And I struggled with that for probably about 10, 11 years before I was diagnosed with PTSD. So, and I always said, hey, it can't be me with PTSD. I was not a door knocker when I was in Iraq. I worked for the Personal Recovery Center, but I saw a lot of bad stuff while I was there. And I sought out photography almost as a therapeutic, as a therapy for me. And it's turned out that way. And it's then blossomed into this. But retiring or coming off active duty, I'll back up from there too. I learned a lot of skills. The skills I learned in the military, not just the intelligence, being an intelligence specialist or an intelligence officer. I learned how to cope with a lot of things and how to really meet adversity and not suck it up so much, but find, okay, I need to have a plan C, D, E, and F, because if A, B, and C don't work, I need to be able to find a way to make things work. And I think that's what a lot of our veterans, perhaps they're missing. They're not making that plan, or they've had the skills. They went in and got a skill set. Maybe a mechanic. It's easier to find a skill set. But if you went in and you were doing something else that it doesn't transition well into the civilian world, you become lost. You become exactly what you were talking about, depressed. Hey, nobody cares about me. There's really nothing I can do. I need to make a living. I need to support my family. I need to support myself. And one of the areas that besides looking at photography, and that is reaching out to fellow veterans, becoming part of Facebook groups, becoming part of, hey, the VFW or the American Legion. Those that, there's only, 1 or 2% of American citizens serve in the military. And we're a close-knit group, and not everybody gets to join the military, or at least gets to finish up their basic and go on and serve in the military. And we've got to realize we have a strong brotherhood and sisterhood there that we can rely on. I see it every day in part of the veteran groups that I am a part of. A veteran having a very difficult time transitioning from active duty service, or they've been out, or even reserves. They've been out for a while and they've been having some difficult times financially, motivating themselves finding a job, with family, with alcoholism, with anything like that. And the brothers and sisters right there in the Facebook group that don't even know them, they've never met them, are there to lend a helping hand and there to listen and there to point them in the right direction that if, hey, I can't help you personally, but here's some information that, hey, let's do this together. I'll help you call. I'll get on an email. I'll get on a 3-way call so that I can help you help make this transition and get your foot in the door, what it is you want.
Dennis, one of the things that the AUSN, the Association of the United States Navy, what we're doing is exactly what you're talking about. You know, we have a lot of resources, right? We've got tons of resources on the internet. You click that button and bingo, you go to this website, that website. But what you just articulated was the need for that personal touch.
Yep.
I want to set up a buddy system where when a person, a naval individual, or even a family member, a spouse or a child, when they need somebody to reach out to, the button they click on the AUSN website is going to go to a human being, a fellow service member who's going to give them a call and say, look, I'm here to help you. And boy, you just hit the nail on the head. A lot of resources, but without that personal touch. And you find out, and I'm going to ask you to speak to this, you find out that the people you have been in touch with walked in the shoes you walked in. 100%.
Because we always think that it's us, that it's ourselves, we're alone, we're the only ones having this problem. And as you said, you know, I think I'm still a member of the AUSN. If not, I'll renew my membership.
We'll get to catch up to you there, Dennis Maida.
Exactly. But you realize once you talk to the person, that fellow veteran, man, they've all walked that walk before, and you're not alone. And you know, they can hold your hand figuratively and subjectively. They can hold your hand and help you through this. And once you realize you are not alone, and you can handle, and you have the training, whether you realize it or not, to meet this challenge in front of you, and you can meet it with others, and you can help, and they can help your family too. It brings a sense of calm, and it brings you back to that I can do it mentality, and nothing is going to stop me. I am going to get the help. It's just taking that first step, clicking on that AUSN, reaching out to any other maybe government agencies that you might want to call upon to help you, or just reaching out to a fellow sailor that you served with, 10 years ago, and just say, hey, Steve, I'm having some issues. Can you help me out? And that's all it takes. It really is. That's all it takes.
You talked about photography as therapeutic for you. I ran into an individual fellow. It was amazing. Big, rough, tough guy, a naval sailor that really served well. And he got into that period of the depression where he just didn't know what to do. But you know what he did? He was walking by a store one day and he saw this Lego city, a beautiful city built of Legos. And the guy told me, something clicked in me and said, I'd like to build those cities. And he's spending time as a hobby, which is now coming into competition and all that stuff. Where he found that being therapeutic. So basically, really, I mean, you could find anything that maybe will click with you, and it's a good thing. So my point is, you pursued this photography. I want to talk about that. When did you know? When did it click? When did you say, I'm going to pursue this because this will be helpful to me? And by the way, you're bringing pretty much joy to others. Look, I'm not into photography and art, but I like good art when I see it. And I like good photography. And when I saw yours, like that one you got behind you with the American flag, I said, there's my country. And that guy talking to me through that picture. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just like what you're doing. It's impactful.
No, that's okay. I appreciate that very much. And that's part of the joy that I find, even if no one purchases one of my pictures, the fact that they find joy, they want to talk to me about that one image that strikes them, that moves them, then my job is done. I knew right away. So I got into it. And what did I say? I got back from Iraq in December of 2007, and went back with DIA at the time. And we had a trip to New Orleans, and a fellow sailor who happened to be a darn good photographer at the time, I told him, hey, you know what? I've always been interested in the camera. My grandfather worked for Kodak for 40 years. I want to learn a bit about it. And he took me around the streets of New Orleans, And I was hooked. I mean, I literally was hooked from day one, knowing that I can look at something and maybe I'm going to look at it differently, and I'm going to be able to capture something that someone else doesn't see, even though we're looking at the same object, the same, same mountain, same building, the same sign, whatever it is. I knew it immediately, and I pursued it. I almost became quite obsessed with it, so much so that my wife had to tell me to calm down with it, because I take trips everywhere, because I find great. I'll use the word therapy again. It just brings me great peace. So I knew early on that I wanted to pursue photography. I knew early on that no matter what I do with it, I want to make it something that that can be, hopefully one day, my full-time gig, but I can also use it to help others. And that's where I'm trying to take it to the next level. If I find it can help others, I think I've reached the pinnacle of it at that time.
You know what I find many times, Dennis, we pursue these wonderful, wonderful careers, and I'm concerned about young people.
Yep.
They're not learning in school to appreciate the arts, to appreciate photography, artwork. And I'm hoping that many of our members in the AUSN will start to do that, to maybe even talk to their children about things like what you're doing. This is why I have individuals like you on our programs, to let people know there is hope after the military.
Yes.
There is a life after the military.
100%.
And I've always believed, you know how I feel about the good Lord. I say, God works things out for us somehow, some way, and we don't even know it. And here you are, you're communicating to, if not thousands, millions of people, I'm sure over the course of a period of time, through art. What a language! I'm sorry, through photography. What a language that is.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I often hear. I'll back up. I opened up this gallery about 3 months ago, but even prior to that, when I would hear from someone that they're looking at one of my images and they tell me, "Hey, this made me feel this way," or "It made me feel that way," or "How you captured that is exactly what I was thinking," or they even say something completely opposite, and they're like, "Well, you know what? I know you, Dennis, the artist, you're telling me that this is what you see with it, but I see it this way." I think that just, like I said before, it is just the most rewarding experience, and you never know what's going to spark someone else in their creativity, such as the arts, sports. Heck, it could be, it could be something like cooking. It could be something as simple as going to volunteer. Everybody just needs to be introduced to something, and you might not be good at it. You might not be good at it for years until you can really hone that craft, or maybe you're never good at it. But if you find joy in doing it, and it brings you that sense of pride, or the sense of, hey, I accomplished something, that's all that matters. You're not doing it for anyone else. You're doing it for yourself, maybe for your family too, but you're definitely got to do it for yourself.
Dennis, I'm speaking to you, and I'm going to enlarge the screen here just to you, because there is a photograph behind you that I've been studying. I'm thinking, is it the moon? Is
this right here?
Yeah. Is it the clouds? Is it this? And is it a city skyline?
Yes.
To your point about interpreting,
It's tough. It might be tough to see on here. That is New York City skyline. There is a jet above it and a rainbow over it.
Wow.
I was out shooting birds on the top of Garrett Mountain, which overlooks Patterson, New Jersey, one day with my buddy. We were shooting birds.
That's not literally shooting birds. That's
No. Photographing birds, and just turned over to my side. I just saw it. Just came out of the blue here, and there's the picture. It is a composition, so I did some things to it to give it that look, because that's what I saw that day. Faint rainbow over it, and I just pronounced the rainbow a little bit more, and it just gives me this sense of hope. Looking over New York City, this rainbow, this jet. Where are those people going? Are they? I know they're landing, but where did they come from? What lives are they leading? What's going on? Who's getting married? Who just is coming home for someone who passed? who's leaving for the military, who's using this as a junction to go somewhere else. So yeah, that's it.
Certainly caught my attention. I tell you,
Yeah,
that's
that's good.
pretty good.
That's good.
Well, Dennis, tell us about your gallery, where it's located, and a little bit more information on how anybody could get in touch with you. And by the way, people watching this will be seeing this on our website. Okay,
Okay.
so it's going to get a lot of yardage out of this, and
Fantastic.
I want to urge people to listen to your story, and also if they need to give you a call. I mean, you open to that?
Please.
To that?
Absolutely.
We set up a chaplains program, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So as you know, a lot of the men and women in the military and elsewhere, they're afraid to open up to someone else.
Yep.
In fear that they would be labeled, stereotypical type stuff. They need to speak to somebody who will certainly keep their word and keep it confidential. So we thought of a chaplains program, and then by inviting you on, I'm thinking, boy, would you be a great peer who served and who found life after serving? So if you could tell us where your gallery is, you got any events coming up?
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So the name of the gallery is the Covert Collection. My wife actually came up with that name. It's a little bit of play on my time in the military as an intelligence person. And it's also because we're a little bit tucked away here in the town of Boonton, New Jersey in Morris County. We're on Main Street, 818 Main Street in Boonton, New Jersey. So what do we've got going on? We've got Thursday night music. We try twice a month to have Thursday night music in here just to bring anybody in. It's free. We have some food. We have some drinks. Just a time to come in and relax. Back in 2020, I started this idea, this concept called the F-22 project. And then COVID actually, really took over a bunch of our lives, and I had to stop it. But since I have the gallery, I'm bringing it back. And the F-22 program is focused and targeted towards those veterans that have been diagnosed with PTSD, such as myself, and who are looking for a healthy outlet other than hurting themselves and hurting others. And they'd like to try their hand at photography. And I have one individual right now that I work with. He's a fellow sailor, someone I've known a while, who does have PTSD. And I take him out every now and then. I've been teaching him about photography and not only just the basics of it, but he really wants to know, or has wanted to know, why do I find such great joy in it? And when I tell him about it, it's not the same as taking him out. And I've taken him out on a number of occasions. Number one, he's hooked. Number two, he's beginning to find the same or get the same therapy out of it as I do. Now, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist, not a psychologist, anything like that. So there's other things that individuals need to go through if they do suffer from PTSD. But I find this, hopefully, it will be a safer outlet for them. So I just started advertising that again here at the gallery, that if you are a veteran and you're just looking for another outlet, maybe you never tried photography, you're not even sure if it'll work, it's free of charge. We do have some extra cameras. We try to have some workshops to get you out and about. Right now, it's just in New Jersey and New York. I hope one day, when I'm fully retired from my civilian job, that I can just run this gallery and the F-22 project fully, supporting our veterans with PTSD, because we know there's a lot of them, so that they would rather turn to the camera and focus maybe on their pain that way, or showing their pain that way, rather than hurting themselves or hurting others. I named it the F-22 project for two reasons. F-22, your aperture on a camera, quite sharp, really puts things into focus, and we lose 22 veterans a day to suicide. So I put the two together, and that's where I came up with this project. So if there's anybody out there that wants to help support us, or also wants to be a part of it and wants to just try their hand at it, please contact me. At maybe through the AUSN, you can contact me through Steve here, and we'll do it that way. That's really where my heart is, aside from taking photos and putting them up here for sale for folks.
A couple of things we're going to do. All right. If you can be so kind to do a few things for me,
Sure.
Send me your information with regard to your Thursday night event. So
Okay.
I want to, my wife and I want to stop by one night and say hello to you and look at the gallery.
Beautiful.
Secondly, the F-22 project. If you could send me a summary of that, I'd like to get into one of our monthly newsletters.
Excellent.
All right, because there are thousands, maybe millions, who knows, of individuals who were in the military, sailors, etc., and family members who are having a hard time. But this project you put together is another way that they can deal with it. So if you can get that info to me, we'll highlight it. Okay.
Absolutely. 100%.
As well
and
as
even if we can help one, listen, we want to help everybody. If we can just help one that doesn't want to hurt themselves or hurt others because of the pain that they're suffering.
And the family members, sometimes, the family members are left out. The spouses can't detect what's going on. And boy, what an opportunity for both of them to come.
100%. 100%. We're open to everybody. Like I said, we're getting this back off the ground. So we're open to any way that this can go. We just know that we want to use photography as that means to help.
We, two other things, but one other thing, so I don't forget it. We're creating community outreach partnerships with small businesses throughout the country. We have a few pilot programs going on here in New Jersey. I would like to add you to be a partner with us.
I love it.
And what we do is we exchange websites, okay?
Great.
And we'll certainly highlight you and do everything we could to help you as a small business.
Awesome.
I'm really fascinated over this. Now, there's something you continuously repeated, and I'm so happy you did. So I want to follow up on this before we close out. You had mentioned your wife a few times.
Yes.
I'm thinking, you know what? How many people leave their spouses out of the picture? No pun intended, okay?
Yeah.
Leave out of the picture. They go on and they do things and they're wonderfully excited about them, but they leave the husband or the wife and sometimes the kids out of enjoying the moment.
Yep.
So can you speak to that issue?
Sure, 100%. So, excuse me, early on with the photography, drove my wife crazy, right? Because I would constantly be talking about, I keep saying this, but I'll back up again. I would not have been able to serve this country for 31 years if it was not for my wife and my two children. She keeps saying, "Hey, you might be the lieutenant commander, but I'm the chief of this boat, and I run this ship." And I said, "You know what? You're absolutely right." So kudos to the spouses out there, whether it's a man or woman. Kudos to them for keeping the home boat afloat, because we couldn't do this without them. So, but on the photography, it drove her crazy for a long time, but she kind of sees how it helps me a bit, right? So she absolutely is 100% supportive of when I say, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna go down to Carolina this weekend because I want to take pictures of the Milky Way." She's like, "Good on you, go have a good time." But and I opened up this gallery almost by accident. Back in December, I was dropping off some photos, and I'll get to where my wife and my daughter come into this. I was dropping off some photos to another gallery a couple of doors up, and as I showed up, and I know the woman, I said, "Hey, Donna, I didn't know you were opening up a gallery. This place is great. I've always wanted to open one up myself." Excuse me. And she said, "Funny you should say that. This place right down the block is open." She walked me down here. I looked at it. I said, "All right, I'll be back tomorrow with my wife and my daughter." My wife and my daughter came in the next day, and they're like, "You got to do this. This is just a gift horse in the mouth." And they were in here almost every day with me, getting this place prepared. Again, my wife, the chief of the boat, taking over and putting her touch on everything. And I'm just letting her go and letting her do it. But fully supportive in this endeavor. In this endeavor. And I couldn't do it without them. I truly couldn't do it without them. And it's wonderful to have them on board.
Well, it was wonderful to have you on board tonight, and appreciate it very much. And Dennis, I'm proud of you. I really am. I'm proud of you. Came a long way, and now you're still out there helping fellow sailors and service members and their families. So please send me that information.
Yes, sir.
And then we're going to get it posted. I'll let you know when we have it on our website. Maybe the editor of our newsletter will give you a call to talk to you a little bit. Sure. And then we're going to put you as one of our partners and working together to better our military, our Navy, and of course the country.
Absolutely. Hey, I truly appreciate the opportunity to tell the story. Hey, to speak to you again, because it's been a while. We've been hit or miss for a while. I remember running the Sea Scouts with you for a
Yeah,
couple of years there.
yeah.
But I truly thank you for the opportunity. And like I said, if this gets out and it touches one sailor or one service member as a whole, I think we're doing our job here. We're doing our job as continuing our service to the nation.
Well, please extend our appreciation to your wife and your kids for supporting you and supporting the efforts that all of you have put together to help all of us. Well,
Absolutely.
I salute you there, Commander.
Thank you, sir.
We'll be in touch. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
You got it. Take care, Steve. Bye-bye.
Well, folks, what do you think of that? Dennis Maida. I'm really proud of him. Did you see this guy smile and talk positive? We need more of that in this country, right? We need somebody like him who, got right up front and said, hey, look, I've had these challenges. I've walked through that valley of shadow of death and I have feared no evil. And look what he did and his family. So it's so great to have him on board tonight. So, folks, that wraps it up, okay? So I want to thank you all for tuning in. Go to our website. That's AUSN.org. In addition, we'll have Dennis's video up, and we're going to get a lot of information out about him and his gallery. And hopefully we'll be seeing some of you there. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Lieutenant Commander Stephen Rogers. Thank you. God bless you. God bless the United States Navy, and God bless America.